This is Mason from Nuun HQ, Hydration HQ, with Kevin, also at Nuun HQ, and Kara Goucher. Very exciting to have you and discuss your new book, Strong. I have my copy right here. I think Kevin brought his.
You blew the cover. That's it. Now we're done.
That was a secret. Shoot.
Everybody's taking my material. I have nothing else to
say. and we're super excited to have the chance to do an exclusive chat and ask some questions and do a deep dive into the journey of Strong, the book, the content inside, and just explore what we chat about. And so just to kick things off real quick, we'll have Kevin introduce Kara and then Kara introduce Kevin. I think this will be fun.
Well, we're about to find out. Wait, so Mason, one quick logistics question for everybody. So can they don't have the ability to ask questions, right? So is that right?
So attendees at the moment will have the chance to type into the Q&A at the bottom. Mm-hmm. And so you can store all your questions there as they come up, and then I'll open that up in the at the end of the chat, and we'll go through those and try to answer those ones if they haven't been answered already.
All right. We got it.
All right, intros.
Okay, here we go. Well, really, we don't need much of an introduction for the Kara Goucher. But let me just say this. I remember this quote from Kara at one point, and I say, Kara is a two-time Olympian. And I want to emphasize she's an Olympian, because some people will actually use the language of a previous Olympian, but once an Olympian, always an Olympian. So I just want to make that comment because it actually really hit home for me, because I was thinking, well, once you do an Ironman, you're always an Ironman, and once you do a marathon, right, you're always a marathoner, et cetera, et cetera. So Kara, two-time Olympian, world championships silver medalist on the running side. However, I think more importantly, awesome human. I consider a friend. This is a bit of a different introduction, by the way, Kara, because I actually wanted to share one quick story as I introduce you. There's something about you, and I think people are going to find that in this Q&A today is, I think everybody's real, so I don't want to use that overused statement of Kara's real, she's authentic, because if you're yourself, everyone is. What I think is interesting is when I hear you talk and give some insights on things and how you feel and take people through your journey, I hear a lot of myself. And I remember distinctly a moment where that happened for me, and we were in Austin, Texas, and you were up front when the documentary about your journey was being shared there. And the Q&A, as you were talking, I'm like, wow, that's like a male version of me. This is so weird. Clearly way more talented. But on the emotional side, I was like, I felt a connection listening to the insights that you said. And I go, man, I felt that in my own kind of way in my life. And I think that's what I find so interesting. And I think that's what other people find so interesting when they get a chance to talk with you is you share your vulnerabilities, you share what you're proud of, and everyone can relate to that. So when I say Kara's real, that's what I mean by that. So Kara Goucher, people.
Thanks, Kevin. So now I get to talk about Kevin. Okay. Yay. Okay. Well, all of you probably know Kevin is the CEO of Nuun, and he's just an awesome leader and a good friend. And I think the thing that I admire most about Kevin is he really motivates you to be a better person and to make small changes in your life without ever making you feel like he's looking down on you. I think the more I get to know Kevin and the more I talk to Kevin over the years, the more I just want to do better. And whether it's his own personal choices in life or the way he's changed Nuun to be organic and more eco-friendly, it's just really inspiring, and I feel like everyone around him wants to do better and be better. And you just do it in a really cool way that is never judgmental. And I think it's really cool. Oh, and he's a really good triathlete. Kevin Rutherford, everybody.
Why, thank you for the intro. That was awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Okay, I'm going to dive in with some questions.
Okay.
If I may. I'm going to start with let's just get on the personal side of things before we jump into talking about the book. And do you remember the first time I met you and Adam? Do you remember this? It was dinner in Boulder. Mm-hmm. And then I put my foot in my mouth because I didn't know Adam. This is really bad. People, I'm going to put myself here. And I said, hey, Adam, so do you run? And that was my foot in my mouth moment going, oh boy, I didn't realize what I said. So Adam, so the cool thing, Adam ran with it, not literally, just figured it out. And the question that I have for you, and I'm thinking about what people might be wondering as well, is so you've got 2 Olympians in the household, elite runners. Do you guys talk about anything other than running at the dinner table or whatever? Like, how's that go over?
You know, we do. When we were both running really competitively on the track and Adam was still competing, we really just talked about running. I mean, we would talk about our families, but basically we would talk about workouts, races coming up, and we could never get bored of talking about running. We just love talking about running. And now we don't talk about it as much. There's just a lot more in our lives now, and Adam doesn't race anymore. And we still have our share of running talk, but it is not nearly as much as it used to be.
I could see that. So did you 2 critique each other or coach each other, push each other?
Kind of all of the above. Like, we always had the same coach, and we raced until I moved to the marathon. We raced very similar events, 5,000, and I ran the 10,000 a little bit more than him. But we literally got up in the morning, ate breakfast together, got in the car, drove over to practice, did the same workouts at the same time under the same coach. Yeah. Cooled down together, went to the gym together, went to get massaged together, took a nap together, got up together, like did another run, ate dinner together. And so it was just like everything was about like trying to be our best. And I mean, I thought it's some of my happiest time of my life, to be honest. I know it sounds boring, but we got to be so close as a couple, and we're chasing these big goals together. So when I look back like that, I really look back at those years fondly.
Yeah, I bet. And you know, obviously Adam's your life partner and best friend. And I can only imagine. I think it's really, really cool. So then your life expanded with a little guy, Colt. Mm-hmm. And Colt's inheriting quite the genes from you guys. So is he destined to become an elite runner in the future?
I don't know. He did say last year, he said, well, I'm an Olympian, you're an Olympian, Daddy's an Olympian, so I'm an Olympian. I was like, no, that's not how that works. You are not an Olympian. So I set the record straight for him right away. I was like, no, that's something you have to earn, and it's very hard to get. He has shown a little interest in running. He set the goal of running 25 miles last year in his school's program. They have a 100-mile program, and he set the goal of running 25 miles. He ran a race out in Seattle. He did do the Boulder, which was a very painful experience for him. But he really is like, I like his attitude. He's kind of like, oh, that'll always be there. Running will always be there. You know, I'm all about basketball, and I like my workout class, and I'm okay at soccer. And so he's more into the other stuff right now, which actually is perfect. So I don't know if he's going to become a runner at some point, but we decided to just like let him do his thing, because he'll find, if it's meant to be, he'll find it.
And why was Boulder so painful? What happened?
Well, you know, he had never run further than about a mile, maybe a mile and a half. And He wanted to run it. And we just said, no, you are too young. This is over 6 miles. You're too young. And he asked a second time, and we shot it down. And when he asked a third time, we were like, why do you want to do it so bad? And he's like, well, it finishes in the stadium and my friends do it. And so we just said, you know what? We'll do it with you, but no complaining. And he's like, okay. So he crushed it for like 4 miles. He was like just doing awesome, stopping for Doritos. He was getting all of his Nuun. He was getting cotton candy. And then about 4 miles, like the wheels fell off. And we've all been there, right? Whether it's like on a run or a race or anything. And I mean, it was just like a look of sheer panic. And he did not complain. He would say every once in a while, my feet kind of hurt. I'm like, yeah, I bet they do, sweetie. We're like kids' play shoes, you know? And it was hot and he was just like suffering. And the last mile, he'd walk a little, run a little, but then he made it. So the last mile took so long. He was averaging like 9-minute miles and he had like a 23-minute mile, you know? And it was just like, Adam and I were like, this is what we were said was going to happen, but we were trying to be positive.
Yeah.
And he was suffering. You could just see it on his face. He was trying not to cry, but he couldn't complain because he's the one that wanted to do it.
Yeah.
But we were really, I mean, in the end, we were really, really proud of him because he saw it through and he never asked to quit. And, you know, now he's run a 10K. So it was a really big deal.
It is a big deal. That's
yeah.
awesome.
He was so mad because he didn't get a medal. And he was like, that's all he wanted. And we went up to the field house. He finished and you go up to the field house and they give you a bag of like snacks. And he's looking through it like, where's my medal? He didn't get a medal.
There was no medal?
He was so mad. That's all he wanted. He was like, what? I mean, we were out there for well over an hour and a half, you know, and he's like, I didn't get a medal.
I earned this.
Yeah, I was like, okay. So I'm not sure if we'll be back next year, but it was still a good time.
I love it. Thanks for sharing that. I love it. Okay, so here's another question I wanted to ask you on your personal journey side. So I talked about being an Olympian. Can you reflect back to 2008, right, as Beijing? Is that right? Mm-hmm. So it's your first time to the Olympics, I believe. Yep. And like, how did that feel? Like, you know, when you get there, was the adrenaline rush happening? Was there highlights that week where you're going, oh my gosh, to I'm basically about to race, and you know, like, what's the feeling of that one? That's something I've always wanted to ask an Olympian, and I haven't.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I made it, I was so emotional because I couldn't believe this dream I had had since I was a child actually came true. And Adam was an Olympian or is an Olympian, but had been an Olympian before me. So he had gone through the experience and he kept kind of warning me, like, there's a lot of hurry up and wait, you know, like there's a lot of fun stuff in the new weight. And so I'm glad that he had had the experience because I knew more what to expect. It was like literally a lifelong dream of mine to see the torch be lit in person. And so I went to the opening ceremonies, which we were wearing suits and we were sweated through our suits. It was so hot. And it was like not what I imagined. Like people were just like peeing on the infield and it was so hot and everyone was like stripping down. And I was like, this is not like what I thought it was going to be like. But when they lit the torch, I was sobbing. You know, I was like, this is it. This is what I wanted. I've been just in awe of the Olympics since I was a kid, and it was pretty awesome. But I would say the competition part, I was very overwhelmed. You know, like walking into that stadium, it held 80,000+ people, which is more than my hometown. And I couldn't hear anyone. Like even when I would race at the Olympic trials or a big race in Europe, I could always hear my coach or my mom or someone. And I just kind of felt overwhelmed by that experience. And I did run 2 events there. The 10,000 was my better event and it was first, and I just kind of got through it. And I'm so glad I ran another because the 5,000 I had more fun. And I was like, okay, I'm not really as good at the 5,000, but I'm going to make the most out of it. But overall, it was a great experience. I mean, it's wild, you know, you're like going to lunch and there's Michael Phelps and there's Serena Williams and there's all these people and you're like, and then you see a trio of little tiny girls and you know that's the gymnastics team and you're like, I kind of want to autograph seat, but I also want to play it cool because I like to deserve to be here, you know? So I have a lot of pictures like of the backs of people, you know, like just totally snooping on people like click, you know, there's Michael Phelps or whoever. So I have a lot of photos like that. But it was just crazy. You're just around people that you watched on TV forever and they're just normal eating in their sweats, in the same sweats you're wearing. It was a great experience. I'm so grateful for it.
So when you fast forward 4 more years to London, did you have the same jitters, same excitement? Like
I was I think I was more excited about making it because I was had kind of a difficult buildup for the trials. So I was more emotional about making the team in 2012. And I had said in 2008, you know, if I ever have the opportunity to come back again, I'm going to enjoy it and I'm not going to put so much pressure on myself. And so I feel like I just kind of went into London with a much better mindset. I do remember a few days out for my race having to turn off the TV because I was tired. I was just getting like so excited about all the other events. And I was like, I have to run a marathon in a few days. Like, I need to stop being a fan, like start just focusing on myself.
Yeah.
And my race in London did not go how Shalane and I had a plan, and it didn't go exactly how we had hoped. But I never lost the joy of it because I just kept thinking like how lucky I was to be there. I had just a totally different mindset than I had 4 years earlier. When it didn't go my way in Beijing, I was like, oh my gosh, this is a nightmare. Everyone's expecting me to medal. This is terrible. And when it didn't go my way in London, I was like, hey, I'm still running in the Olympics and my whole family's here and this is pretty cool. So I just had a much better like outlook on it the second time around.
So now go back even further than that.
Okay.
Actually, I don't know actually how far back this is going to go. This is an open-ended question. I have this thing, like, because I think I've never crossed the finish line first in any race. And well, I know I haven't actually, but let me be clear. I know I haven't. And I feel like the best I usually get is like fourth. And I'm like, damn it. Didn't even get no matter what, I'm like finishing fourth. So do you remember the first time you crossed the line first and you broke the ribbon? Do you remember that?
I do. Yeah. I was in 7th grade and that's when I started organized running. And the first race I got beat by a girl that like walked and then ran and walked and ran. I was like, what the heck? Is that cheating? Like, is she allowed to do that? My coach was like, it's just whoever gets to the finish line first. And so it wasn't until my last race, it was the city championship, that I won. And I just remember being like this is this is happening. Oh my gosh, this is happening. And it was like probably racing like 30 other girls, but in my mind, it was like such a big deal to be the one to break that little ribbon and to be first.
Were you looking back? Or were you looking forward?
Oh, always. I was such an annoying racer back then. I was constantly looking back, and especially on that day because this was my first time winning. So I was just like, is this happening? Oh my gosh, this is happening. I'm going to win.
So, knowing that you've crossed the finish line first and someone here really wants to figure out how to do it, do you have any shortcuts that you can give me that I can get a little quicker, a little faster?
No, it's the wrong sport for shortcuts. Sorry, Kevin.
I'm actually a big believer, all kidding aside, that there are no shortcuts in life, no shortcuts in business, no shortcut in sports. There are some lucky scenarios where it can happen, but it's just a total fluke, and you just can't plan on flukes. I think that's what, speaking of the book.
I forgot about the book. That is why we're here, isn't it?
No, we're just here to chat. So when I was reading through the book, it reminded me obviously a lot of you because it's your words and how you think, and it made me think of the biggest asset for everyone out there. I think that for me, that is all around the psychology of sport. I just thought that was the biggest benefit that I got reading through it, because honestly, I think no matter what race, even a long training day, I start to self-doubt myself. Like, it's so ridiculous sometimes. I'm going, oh my God, can I run 18 miles today? Meanwhile, I probably did 20 the week before, but it doesn't matter. Like this week at this moment, I'm like, oh wait, I don't know if oh boy, can I do this? Oh, how do you get through that? What's your strategy?
Yeah, well, that is really what the book is about, right? Like, I've had a lot of those exact thoughts in my head and continue to. And for me, it's just sort of like a lifelong thing I have to work at. And when I think that running's coming easy and I think success is coming easier, that's when I usually trip up and then something really shakes my core. So I have to really work on that. And there's just strategies I use to to set myself up to succeed against those thoughts. And I think one of the biggest things for me is I used to always have those thoughts, and I thought I was the only one that had those thoughts.
Yeah.
And so I kind of tried to keep it in, like, I don't want anyone to know that I'm like about to cry about a workout coming up. I don't want anyone to know that I'm afraid that I might not be able to hit this long run that's coming up. And for me, like, the biggest thing was just releasing that and admitting it to like everybody, like, I am fearful and I have doubts, and I sometimes wonder what I'm doing, if I'm making the right decision with my life. And I sometimes don't know if I'm going to be able to do all this stuff. And once I kind of just put it out there, it took away some of its power. And it doesn't mean that I don't work on it, because I do. I constantly am working on it, but it took away some of that grip it had of anxiety that it was producing for me.
That makes sense. When you're having this anxiety and apprehension before the start of a race or even a long training day, heck, even like for me, even like speaking in front of a crowd, right? It's going, what I find though is in every situation, once I take the first step, like go, it leads really fast, for me anyway. Does that happen with you?
Yeah, I remember even being in college, my mom came to watch me run at the NCAA championships, and I was so nervous. And I just told her, she's like, I don't like seeing you like this, And I was like, well, as soon as the gun goes off, I'll be fine. As soon as the gun goes off, I am in control of myself again. I'm in control of my movement and my race strategy, but it's all of the waiting that this is going like crazy, So I do find that whether I'm racing or doing a workout or just like you talking to people, it's like once I get into it and get in the groove, I'm like, okay, I know what I'm doing. Like I've been here before. I'm just asking myself to do something that I know I can do. And once it gets going, it's always better.
Yep, absolutely. There's a quote that you actually quoted somebody else. I'm quoting you, quoting someone else.
Okay.
It was short and sweet, so I think it's important that people hear this one. It's where the mind goes, the body follows. And you almost said it like everyone knows that. I'm sitting there going, I never heard that before.
It's so simple, right? But
yes,
it's true. If you start, like, one of my weaknesses is future think. So I'm running, whether it's like a workout or a race, and I'm thinking about a half hour from now, like, what if the wheels fall off, or what if I can't actually kick at the end of this, and I'm thinking ahead. And so now my body is like, well, I don't, like, what's going on? Are we breaking? Are we hesitant? And it's like, if I can just stay in the moment and be focused on what it is I'm asking myself to do, my body will follow me. And it's like, this has to be controlled, because no matter how fit the engine and the pump is and the muscles are, if this fails you, you don't get to show it. So this really does control everything else. And keeping this calm and centered and focused on yourself and not on what might happen a half hour from now, or how someone else looks that's running next to me, or am I going to be able to close hard here? Like, that doesn't help you in the moment, and you can only be in the moment that you're in. And so keeping everything calm and focused on yourself, it's just helped me so much to just really, that quote just is so true in my experience.
And so when you think of, the head game, right, and that mental game, can you think of a time where it wasn't on? Like you could not get yourself in that right headspace for the positive mantra and momentum, and therefore what ended up happening? What was the result?
Yeah, actually, I would use the Olympics in 2008 as an example. I walked in that stadium, was totally overwhelmed. I had lost, I had like a power word. My power word was fighter. I had used it all year to make that team. And I walked into the stadium and I just lost it. And I was just looking for a familiar face. I was trying to find my coach's face or my husband's face or my mom's face. And it was just a sea of faces that I didn't know. Yeah. And the gun went off and I was just I felt like I was just sort of scrambling. Like I wasn't focused. I was really sporadic with my movements in the race, like matching people, letting people go, coming back up. And I was just really, I never centered myself at all. I never said the word fighter to myself, not one time. And if I would have just said it one time, it would have really centered me as like, okay, you're a fighter, calm down. What position do you need to be in? You need to calm down. You need to focus on you. Instead, I just like spiraled and let everything go. And I mean, the last mile of the race, I was just like watching Shalane when I was like, she's going to win a medal. I was like, I'm still racing in the Olympics. And I was running like a PR, and I was completely detached from that. And I was completely obsessed with everything else going on, except for the fact that I was running the Olympics. And it really, you know, I don't think I would have medaled. I don't think I would have finished even 5 spots higher, but I think I would have been able to walk away going like, okay, I left it all out there and I did the best I could do. And I followed my race plan. I stayed focused. My next race was the 5K prelim, and my next race after that was the 5K final. And I did do that in that race.
Yeah.
And I only finished 1 place higher. I was 10th in the 10K and 9th in the 5K, but it was a completely different experience. I was like, I laid it all out there. I did everything right. And that's as good as I am. And I feel great about it, you know?
Yeah.
So it was essentially the same result, but 2 completely different experiences.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that's fascinating. And you actually led into where I wanted to ask you on that one is, can you think of a time where you really kind of took control of the mental game to get your head in the right spot, and therefore the result was what you wanted it? Is there another experience where you're really kind of really stoked about how you managed through it, both leading into and then the race itself?
Yeah, I think 2 examples. One was when I made the Olympic 5K team. I knew that I wasn't necessarily as quick as some of the other women in the field. And I had made a race strategy of just like nothing, thinking nothing, and except for not losing contact with anyone and not thinking about pain, not thinking about pace, not thinking about where I was, just hanging on to that lead pack. And that when I hit 200 to go, all I was going to think was fighter, 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 fighter. And I didn't have doubts during the race. I didn't have hopes during the race. I was just running. And when I hit that mark, I was like Pavlov's dog. I just like went crazy, and I won my first title, and I qualified for the Olympics.
Yeah.
And I think likewise, I think of longer races too, like the marathon trials in 2012, where I really hadn't done the proper training to make the team because of injury. But I was really able to stay in myself and just stay focused on like, hey, I'm still here. My breathing is still good. I am still doing well. Like, I am courageous. I belong here. And as everyone fell away and all of a sudden I was in 3rd place, I was like, holy crap, it worked. Now I just need to like ride it out and get across that line. But yeah, but I think when you really just focus on yourself and the positive things that are happening for you, and you kind of can let go of everything else around you, that's when you really can come through with a special performance.
So you're a big believer in using these positive confidence boosting mantras that work for you. And I think you said that everyone has that, like, your take on it is different for every person. What works for you, and distilling it down to the word fighter as an example, is different for you than it would be for me. So one of the things that I'm trying to get my head wrapped around is sometimes when I'm trying to get that mantra in my head, it almost feels superficial that I'm not buying into it. Like,
yeah.
I'm just going,
you're like, no, that's lame.
yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm like, this is lame. This isn't working.
Yeah.
What do you do with the problem child like me to fight through that? Because I'm probably not the only one that's thinking that.
No, I think, first of all, I don't think that every technique works for every person. That's why it's important to learn all the different techniques, because one might speak to you more than another. But I also think with the power word, it's a bit like writing in a confidence journal. I feel like you have to dedicate yourself to it for like a chunk of time before you really know if it's working or not.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you've dedicated yourself to the word fighter, and then 2 weeks in, you're like, all I'm imagining is a boxer. I can't use this word anymore. So switch your word. Doesn't mean like you have to keep it forever.
Yeah.
But I think that if you really truly dedicate yourself to saying like, I belong, or I deserve to be here, or whatever it is, like I'm still here, whatever you decide, if you truly do it in training enough, it will start to come naturally. And that's when you start to see the benefit of it. And I really think you need to, like, you know, like when people are learning how to do yoga or to meditate, it's like, everyone's like, you have to do it for like at least a month before you see, and everyone's like, and then they do it twice and they're like, it's not for me. But if you actually do it, then it becomes like, you don't have to think about it. It just starts to come naturally. And then you're like, wow, no, that actually did make my day so much better that I took 5 minutes in the morning to create space in my head, you know? So I would just say, like, really, truly commit to it. Make yourself do it for a month. And then if you're still like, Now I feel like an imposter. Try something else. There's lots of other things to try.
Okay. All right, I do feel like an imposter at times.
Okay.
I seriously do. I'm like, this doesn't work. I don't get it.
Oh man, that's amazing.
So here's a I was having a conversation with a mutual friend of ours, Jesse Thomas, getting advice on swimming, because the swim is the part that I hate in triathlons. Don't worry, this will come back to you and run. It's not about me.
It's okay.
So
I hate swimming too.
So Jesse, I said to Jesse, I go, hey, so you came out of the front of the pack in the swim, because he's usually not quite that far up the front, but he's pretty far up, but not there. He had a really good swim. And I go, how did it feel when you got out of the water, right? And he goes, yeah, it felt great, blah, blah, blah. I said, so when you go to the water, do you just go, oh, that was refreshing, now on to the bike? He goes, no, it's freaking miserable the whole time. And I go, okay, thank goodness, because I thought everybody thought the swim was just so fun.
Yeah.
So it comes back to, I'm thinking of marathon. And I feel like I can fake it like till about mile 18 or 19. And I've done this a few times. I've gone way faster than I should have. And then the saying, the wheels come off. And they do. They all come falling off on me. So what do you, other than the training, the physical training part, but I'm trying to think of the mental game there. I basically keep telling myself there's something left in the legs, but there's nothing. Like they're done, they're baked, I've killed them. At least that's what my legs are telling me. So do you as elite runners feel this, or is it just us amateurs trying to do our best? And you guys are like, yeah, that was a good day. It was really fun. It hurt a little bit, but I'm good to go. And then
No.
how do you fight through it if you do feel the pain?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it doesn't matter how fit you are, because the more fit you are, just your hurt produces like a faster time, right? So one thing Adam taught me actually early on in my career was, I was the favorite to win NCAA cross country, and he said, don't think it's going to come easy. It's always going to hurt. There's always going to be a place where you're like, I don't know if I can do this.
Yeah.
Just because you're fitter than you've ever been, like, that just means you can run faster. You're still going to hurt. You're still going to have those doubts. You're still going to be like, oh my God, like, can I make it, you know? And that's how it is. And everything, even like epic training runs, you know, you'll still have those moments of like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know, I might have gone out too hard. So first of all, like, you're not alone. Everybody feels pain. And if they don't feel pain, then they're not running hard enough. But I think for you specifically, I'm wondering if how your pacing is, because I think that's the biggest problem. The marathon is long and it is hard. And we know that physiologically your body is like made to run between 18 and 22, but you have to go to 26.2. So if you go, you know what, I think it's a PR kind of day, and you do that early on, you will suffer horribly later on. If you do feel like it's a PR kind of day, hold back and run the pace you've trained to run. And then when you get to 18 and you feel great, then you can pick it up a little bit. But I think for myself, I've always been a very conservative athlete when it comes to the marathon. The one time I threw caution to the wind and was like, you know what, screw it. I like feel great. I'm going to win this. I died a horrible, horrible death. It was in the New York City Marathon in 2014. I missed my bottle when I needed it more than ever. I was staggering in. I couldn't remember like my name, like what race am I in? What pace was I mean, it was horrible. And so that was like, for me, like a lesson that I already knew, but then I got to experience it firsthand, and it was horrible. But even if you're running a great marathon and you feel good, around 20 miles, that's when like the doubts are really going to start to creep in, because you've been out there a long time and your body is depleted. I don't care how good of a job you've been doing hydrating and with your nutrition, your body is starting to get to that point. And so that's when you really do have to come back to your power words and your mantras and remember the training that you've done. That's the great thing. If you've really worked with a power word or a mantra, you should be able to say it, and it should just conjure up images of you training Rocky style, you know, like getting the work done to be there. And the other thing I always tell myself is I'm only asking myself to do something I've proven to myself I can do in training. And even when it gets hard, I'll remind myself of that. Like, I'm only asking myself to do something I did in training. Now that one day in New York, I was asking myself to do a lot more, and I suffered for it. But in general, you've done the preparation, you know what you're ready to do. and you just got to fight through those patches.
You bring up something else that made me think of this is I think sports teaches us a lot of life lessons. And one of the lessons, oddly enough, is it teaches us how to lose. And I think of that even as a team sport. I grew up playing hockey was my sport. And I think there's something about learning how to lose, or said differently, how you miss your goal or whatever that might be. Are there some life lessons that you feel like you've learned from the big misses?
Definitely. I mean, nobody likes the big misses. Nobody likes to not make an Olympic team or not hit the goal time you had or not qualify for Boston or whatever it might be. But those, I mean, it's so cliche, but those are the moments when I've learned like so much more about myself and learned about what it is that I truly care about and why it matters, that I took the journey to begin with. I'm not going to lie. I cry and I curl up in a ball and I'm like, I can't believe I didn't get it, you know, but then I have to like work through it. Yeah. There's always another race or something to look forward to. And I think that if you aren't willing to be that vulnerable, then you'll never really reach your potential. You have to be willing to hurt. It has to hurt. Because if it's not, I mean, not making the Olympic team in 2016 was just devastating for me for months. I mean, it still hurts to talk about. Yeah. But I had to be that vulnerable and I had to want it that bad or I wasn't going to make it. I mean, I'm competing against people that are just too good. It had to really, really mean something to me. I had to be willing to sacrifice so much and to want it and to just be vulnerable in a way that is uncomfortable. And it sucked so bad. It was so terrible when I didn't make it. But if I hadn't put myself in that position, I would have finished 10th or 15th. I had to want it that bad. And you have to be able to, it has to be worth it.
And you were so close.
I
know. So actually, I should be jumping ahead to some other questions, but some Mason's probably going crazy over here saying, Kevin, you're but another one. So I think you talk about here becoming the best version of you in the book. And then I'm going, come on. Seriously, the best version of you, Oprah. Let's talk about this. So isn't it really about your competition? You just got to beat them, right?
No, if you focus on everyone around you and beating someone, you will never get it. You might get it like short-lived or for a little bit, but you won't. I'm serious. The times that I was so focused on one athlete or two other athletes, it was so unfulfilling and I drove myself insane. The times when I focused on my progress and what I'm doing and what I'm getting out of it, when I have those misses, like in Rio, not even knowing that I didn't make it to Rio, I would still do it all over again, same exact way in a heartbeat. Because the buildup and the joy I felt and the way I felt about myself and the things that I was achieving, and I had just pushed everything else out. I was like, I'm just going to take this journey and whatever the end result is, it is. It was such an amazing time in my life. And it sucked so bad that it didn't go the way I wanted, but I would still do it again in a heartbeat. And I was only focused on myself. You really have to just credit yourself because you can't do what someone else does. It's impossible, just like they can't do what you do. And so if you're always measuring yourself to someone else, you could never truly win. It always can only be about you and your progress and what the goals and steps that you're making. So Oprah.
No little mind games, you know. Hey, Shalane, guess what?
I just think like it's wasted energy and yeah. I'm going to tell her that I got food poisoning from one of her recipes or something. It doesn't matter, you know, like she's confident
now we're talking.
in who she is. See, that's the thing. Like,
and
she
then
is confident.
Slipping a little Gatorade in her water bottle. Oh, did I say it out loud? I'm sorry. That was too soon.
No, it's just like she's confident in her plan.
Yeah.
Amy Hastings or Amy Craig is confident in her plan. Desi's confident in her plan. I'm confident in my plan. Kellen Taylor was confident in her plan. We all are doing our own thing. And you know, I try actually not to even read about what my competitors are doing because it kind of catches me off guard. And then I think, well, should I be doing that? And then that's the wrong thing. You should never be trying to train the way they're trained. You should be trying to train the way that's right for you.
Yeah. I buy it. I'm buying into this.
It's all about you, Kevin. It's all about you.
Well, I'm thinking I might be representing a lot of people listening.
Yeah, sure.
And that's why I'm asking.
I have lived that life where I'm obsessed with one person and one particular person. And you know what? It kept me in this small box because I wasn't thinking about a big, like growing. I was thinking about like just maintaining my spot in the US. And instead that held me back from reaching bigger potential and being on a bigger stage. And it's easy to do, but it doesn't get you where you want. It actually holds you back.
I almost want to like dig for more gossip here. Like, oh, so who was your nemesis?
Another time.
Okay. All right, here's getting to, how about social connections from running and how you've connected with the community. So I think the quote here is, running is a powerful vehicle for bonding. And I guess the question that I have for you on this one is, running feels like such a solo sport. How is running something that helps create a bond and is that vehicle for it?
I think my closest friends in my life I made through running, and they're such deep relationships because I think when you're running with someone, especially like on a long run or something that's hard or draining on you, you don't have the energy for pretense. You know, you're not going to be like acting, you just don't have the energy to pretend that everything's great or put these walls up. And so like, it's like truth serum. Like I go on a run with someone, it's like truth serum. And I feel like I've gotten really great, deep relationships with the women I've trained with Shalane and with Emma Coburn and Jenny, because you don't sugarcoat. You're just there's so much energy going into the movement that you don't have energy to like put up this wall. Yeah. And so I think on a simple side, I've had some really, really deep friendships because of that. And I think it brings so many people together. I mean, like we all run for different reasons, but we all know that feeling of setting a PR or going further than we've gone before, or finding a new trail that we didn't know existed. And we all can feel those things, and it really does just bring people together. And the other thing is that you can't always be on top. You can't always be having the perfect training block. Yeah. And so if it's only, I mean, I'm like, no, I just was like, it's all about you. It's all about you. It's all about you. But if sometimes the just reality is that you're not going to be at the same starting line, or you're not going to be in the same fitness. And so do you just begrudgingly watch the race, or what do you do when you poured yourself into other people? You know, watching Shalane win New York, watching Emma win Worlds. I mean, it was so emotional and so fulfilling, and that matters, you know, like there are other people that are going through the same things you are going through, that are working just as hard as you and want it just as bad as you. And to see it happen for them, it can bring you a lot of joy in a way that you couldn't get from anything else, really. Yeah,
that makes sense. I completely get that. That one I really do get.
Okay, good.
I really do. So you get a few contributors in your book. Again, strong, everybody. Is there any surprises that when you were having the discussions, whether it was Mary or Emma, just really across the board, any surprise where you're like, wow, I didn't know that about you?
I think all of them contributed in their own way. And what surprised me the most probably was just that people view confidence in a different way, even though the end result is them trying to get the most out of themselves and trying to perform at their best or get the most out of their life in whatever area. But the way they go about it is differently, and the word holds different weight for all of them. Mm-hmm. I thought it was really interesting to get this incredible panel of successful women, but to hear what their definition is and what they think about it is different. You know, like Molly Huddle doesn't necessarily come across as this super confident person. She's like tiny and she runs forever, but you know, we don't see her like, oh yeah, me, you know? And so it was interesting to read like her client confidence and how she builds that. Like that is fascinating to me because it's interesting how we all come at it from a different angle, but in the end, it really is trying to get the same result.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, if I remember correctly, Sally talked about, it's like this, a little bit of vicious circle. It's almost like you have to start to get the experience, but you don't have the confidence to start, and therefore you don't have the experience. So you just have to go. Like
you just have to jump. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just got to go.
I thought it was really insightful. Since we have a lot of Nuun people, Nuun ambassadors, obviously, that are listening in on this one, talk to us about the role of brands. And no, I'm not trying to plug Nuun specifically. I'm more thinking about, well, maybe.
Really? Because it says it behind you.
Oh my gosh. Who put that there? Subtle, not. So I was actually thinking about, talk to us about that experience of transitioning from Nike, a world leader, to challenger brands like Oiselle and Nuun. Like, was that a difficult transition for you? Was it good? Do you wish you were still, the Nike world of the days? And that wasn't a leading question, truly.
Yeah, I think it has been great, but it was very difficult at first because I came from a really powerful system where everything was taken care of, and anything that I wanted or needed would be immediately created and delivered. And, the financial resources, there was like no limit, and anything that needed to happen happened. And so it was difficult to transition to having to, this makes me sound like a child, but having to like fight for myself a little bit more and think for myself a little bit more. And, but in that process, I really kind of discovered who I was in my 30s, my mid to late 30s, which is crazy because I never really had to think before, what do I stand for? What is important to me? What am I willing to put energy towards and what am I not? Because I didn't have to put energy towards anything before. It was kind of all just taken care of in a way that I could just focus on running.
Yeah.
So it's been a journey. I've made some mishaps along the way. I've, partnered with brands that weren't necessarily sharing the same vision as me. And it's been a learning experience, but I think as an individual, it's been really good because I feel like I have a very clear, not definition, but a clear idea of who I am and what matters to me now. And I did not have that before. I had all of the things and I had a lot more ease, but I didn't really know, I couldn't really tell you what I stood for and what matters to me before. And now I do.
Yeah, that's awesome. Mason, I'm looking over at you for a moment. So can I ask one more question?
Yeah, most definitely.
Sweet. Asking for permission here. Mason keeps me back. So I'm thinking about future state in the future. And Kara, you're so passionate about running because it's been a massive part of your world right to this very day, and future looking. What's your future look like when it comes to running? Any future goals that you want to share with the team?
Yeah, I will never retire from running because I just never know what will motivate me or inspire me. I have this goal right now to break 2:30 in the marathon. It's been on 2 very challenging years, so I don't know if it will happen, but I'm definitely like, that's what I want. And that's what I've, written down. That's the goal, to run under 2:30 in the marathon again. So I am excited about that. I'm in a place where I'm excited to kind of get back into training, whereas the last couple of years have been kind of muddled and I've been a little bit fearful about trying hard. And now I'm kind of just like, I just want to try hard. I'm ready to try hard.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about that, but I'm excited about the future beyond that. There's so, I've just been on this like track and then to roads world and running, and there's a whole world outside of that. And I'm excited about exploring that world, whether it be with youth running or all the way up to like ultra marathoning. There's so many things that are interesting to me. And I'm excited that I'm at a point in my life where if I want to try to do an ultra, I can just do that. I don't have to get anyone's permission. I don't have to suffer a reduction. I can just do those things. So I'm excited about running in general, but in a lot of different ways.
What's the legacy you want to leave behind? What's the positive change you want to leave in the world?
I think I fell in love with running because it made me feel free. and there were no judges. And I was a competitive dancer before that. And, you know, like constantly being critiqued. Running was just freedom. You know, you just ran yourself. You know, I fell in love with cross country. So it was like you and the ground and whoever got to that line first, even that girl that walked and then sprinted and beat me. And I love that about the sport. And, you know, I became better and better, and it took me to the highest highs, but I want to always reconnect with why I loved it in the first place. And I want to make sure that, you know, my thing is to protect it, because there's a young girl that's just like me right now who is discovering it for the first time, and it's making her feel alive in a way she never felt before. And I don't want her to climb the ranks and have to make decisions that she doesn't feel good about, to continue to pursue her dreams. And so, yeah, I think that's sort of my thing, is protecting it and keeping it pure, because there's, you know, running is going to continue, and there's going to be, as all the people that we love right now, there's going to be another generation of people that are going to be even better. And I just want them to be able to make choices that they feel good about, and never feel pressured to make choices that they don't.
Yeah. Well, you lead by example on that. And I think of the clean sport scenario when we've talked about that in the past. I'm grateful to our friends Kevin and Shanna Burnett for introducing me to you and Adam, because I think you are an inspiration to me, but to many, many, many people. And you kind of make me want to get out and run and try a little harder. So I really, really do appreciate that, among many super qualities. So you're an awesome human.
Thanks. So are you.
Those are my questions, Mason. But I could keep going for a while, but I think you want to.
Oh, I believe you can keep going.
He's like, enough, Kevin.
It's going like this.
Yeah, it's been going really well. But we did get some questions come in on Q&A, and I'd love to get through those really quickly, just so that we stay within our time window.
Yeah.
And folks can, add in any Q&As you have, and we'll just start going through them. The first one was from Julie, how has writing the book changed you and your running? So like book writing.
Ooh, that's a good question.
How's it changed my view on running?
Or how's it changed you, or how has it changed your running?
The book has been really fun for me to sort of like share my experiences and to share what I used to think was a weakness with other people. And it's made me feel really connected to a whole new group of people. And it makes me excited about hearing other people as they try to reach their goals, if it helped or if it didn't help. It was honestly kind of cathartic to write it and to share my experience, because it's just stuff that like I have like maybe carried around for years a little bit. And so it's been great for me to actually just sort of like share it, and to have it be welcomed has been really cool.
Awesome. Quick one. What is your favorite flavor of Nuun?
So I change it a lot. So I feel bad, because it was like, oh, it was grape, and then it was orange, and then it was lemon lime. And like, I feel bad, but right now I'm really back on the old school lemon lime again.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. Next question from Lisa is, how do you manage internal dialogue versus what you hear from others when you're training?
My inner dialogue is I'm using these techniques to keep it under control. And really the only voice when I'm training that I'm willing to even take in is my coaches, Heather and Mark, and their feedback along the way on a run. I'm not really, if I'm training with a big group of people and someone else is saying something, I just don't allow it to take up space in my head. I really just need to focus on myself and what they say, because I trust them, and no one else is really allowed to be in there.
Very good.
I like it.
That's good advice. Yeah. From Travis, we've got, are you an Indianapolis Colts fan?
No, I'm not. I'm so sorry. I just really liked the name Colt.
You mentioned a horseshoe necklace that you may have as well. I don't.
I do have a horseshoe necklace. So I love the name Colt. Adam convinced me to name Colt Colton in case he wanted like a more mature name. But I love the name Colt. And I, this is like so cheesy, but I used to call my little stallion. And so that is my horseshoe necklace is for Colt. Yeah. And I wear it a lot.
That's awesome.
I didn't know that. That's freaking awesome.
Learn something new. We may be able to follow up and answer if you don't know, but will your book be released digitally at some point?
It will not, because it is really a work, like an experience. You need to take your pen on the paper and like touch it and write and actually, like there's activities to do in there. And I feel like if you really want it to work for you, you have to, like I was saying to Kevin, you have to kind of commit and actually write and feel the pen in your hand and think the words and write them out. So it will only be in this form.
Awesome.
How often do you journal? Every day?
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I don't write like Dear Diary. I write I write in my training log, and then I open my confidence journal, and like today I will probably say, what will I say today? I ran 10 miles. I didn't feel great, but I'm pleased with after nearly 30 miles the 2 days prior, I feel okay. Something like that. And then I'll say something like, my fitness is building. So it's short, but I do it every day.
And do you reflect, or is it just the idea, I need to get it down, I flip the page, I'm on to the next?
Sometimes I reflect. Sometimes I'm just trying to get it done. But the best thing is then when I'm faced with a workout that I'm nervous about or faced with a race I'm nervous about, I can flip through it and I can be like, oh, wow, no, I've done the work. I'm ready to be here. And I found something positive every day, even on the bad days. And, I'm ready. No matter what hits me tomorrow, I'm ready to take it.
Yeah.
That sounds really good. We just hit 5 o'clock and I don't want to keep anyone over. We can take down any additional questions and like tweet them to you or Instagram them to you. Is that a thing to do? Or
yeah, that's fine. Just tweet them at me. That's great.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah. And you can tag you, Kara, Kevin, make sure that we see them. That'd be a really cool opportunity. Because we had a lot of extra ones just come in, which is really cool. And then from here, what I want to do is share the link to pick up the book here in the chat for everyone. And additionally, we'll share it in the Facebook groups after with all of our ambassadors so everyone can pick it up. It is now live and shipping. Is that correct?
That is yep.
Awesome.
True.
And also, if you get it, you read it, you love it, reviews, those are very important.
5 star.
Super excited to have you, Kara, today. The chat is going crazy. Everyone is very stoked. Kevin, some last words from you?
Well, I always say something about Canada, and I don't think I did.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
like I failed. So there was a question that came in from Emily from Ottawa, my hometown.
There you go.
Said, great marathon here, race auto weekend, definitely at the sub 2:30 place to do it. So
I know there is one in October. Trust me, I know what's going on, Ottawa.
That one's the same course. That's the Army Run, and then the one in May is Race Ottawa weekend.
Well, that's perfect because that could be my backup if things don't go well this fall.
Bingo, hometown, Ottawa. I don't have anything else to add. It's seriously, Kara. It's as always, it's a pleasure just to chat with you. It's also kind of fun to chat with you and let everyone else have a chance to hear what you had to say. So thank you so much, as always, for sharing your heart and brain with all of us. So.
No, thanks everyone for taking an hour out of your evening to listen to me talk about myself. I really appreciate it.
So humble.
It's actually really nice. Like you just listened to me talk about myself. So anyway, thanks everybody. I appreciate it.
It was a gift. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks so much for joining us.
All right. Cheers.
All right. Have a good one, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.